first showed up, he showed up with his mom. Like regular dude, him and mom, like we're going on vacation, we just hit a sale. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet, right? Bring mom to set, right? And then he comes out in costume, and I'm like, that's our show, and our show kicks ass. You know, it's like this show is so fun and so interesting because it starts off as just written words, and it's the definition of an actor.
You think this would be an A24 movie today?
If it was going to be made at all?
This is weirdly a 4-quadrant movie that you wouldn't expect to be. Like, I guess now that I'm older than Anne Bancroft, I never realized how much that this movie plays to adults.
Hey everybody, welcome to the CineFix Top 100. The anxiety we have about our post-grad days while we watch 100 of the greatest movies ever made. I'm Clint Gage. Joining me as always, Mr. Gladstone, Michael Calabro. Cal, what's happening, man?
Hey, Clint, how's it going, dude?
It's going so well. So well. And of course, all the way from the First Presbyterian Church on Allen Street, it's Nick Lamone. Nick, what's up, dude?
You hear that? That's the sound of silence.
You paused for the right amount of time, I think, to really land that joke.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. Listen, we're 6 episodes into your tenure here, and you're crushing it every intro. But I think we've got a good one in store today in terms of. Let me ask you this, guys. In terms of eras of filmmaking, this is like one of my favorite. Do you guys have any soft spots for the late 60s cinema? Like, where does it rank in terms of like eras of filmmaking for you guys? It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s, I think is like my fun sweet spot of just fun and interesting movies that are very exciting and have an edge to them.
Yeah. I mean, this is the beginning of New Hollywood, right? Which I would rightfully consider the greatest era of all time. And I mean, like, this is the year.
Rightfully consider. Like, as in it's your right to consider it that, or you're correct in considering it?
I think it's...
Is this the golden age of cinema?
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I think
I don't think
a lot of textbooks would probably call it that too.
I think artistically it doesn't get any better than this, right? Like every decade produces great movies, but like, man, this movie and a movie that came out literally the same year, which is Bonnie and Clyde. I think that this is like a moment in time where movies that were made in like 1966 feel 40 years older than they actually are, and movies made in 2007 feel like they were made yesterday compared to this movie, right? Like, you and I have talked about this a decent amount, Clint. Like, this is right where the lack of the repealing of the Hays Code is like really started.
The Hays Code started to peter out like early 60s, but it was officially gone by mid to late 60s.
Like, we need adultery stat.
Because MPAA started in what, 67, 68, something like that?
Yeah.
That was kind of the replacement of the Hays Code. But yeah, I mean, The Graduate was right there in the middle of all of this. But, you know, Midnight Cowboy, which we talked about on this show, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, Bonnie and Clyde, you already mentioned, Easy Rider. But they're like right there alongside 2001 and, you know, Night of the Living Dead. Those both came out in the late 60s. Like, there's just a nonstop creative stuff happening in the late 60s, I think.
But it's not even that. It's just like these movies just feel timeless in a new kind of way, where it's like when I guess like what I'm trying to say is like when we say Sunset Boulevard is timeless, like its themes and its story is, but it's just like the delivery of everybody, you know, it feels of the time and of the era, and very much is like the theatrical Hays Code performance and things like that. But this is that naturalistic vibe, and you know, they're not afraid to like curse or like be. It feels more like a modern movie in every sense of the word.
So let's just replace that the vagaries that we're talking about this movie. And we're talking about The Graduate.
Yep.
If you clicked on this video blindly and didn't see the thumbnail. In 1967, it's a story of Ben Braddock, kid fresh out of college who struggles with what the hell to do with himself after college. And then he winds up in an affair with his middle-aged family friend. It's directed by Mike Nichols, starring Dustin Hoffman, Anne Bancroft, Catherine Ross, the mayor from Jaws, Murray Hamilton. Of course, Mr. Feeney from Boy Meets World, William Daniels is in this. Did you even catch the Richard Dreyfuss pop up?
No.
That's our boy Richard Dreyfuss.
I missed Richard Dreyfuss, and apparently BJ Honeycutt is like in the hotel scene. which I don't know if you're a big MASH.
Who is that?
He's
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Clearly, I'm not.
Scott would.
Richard Dreyfuss is one of the guys that lives in the boarding house where Dustin Hoffman's staying in Northern California.
And
He's the one that
Elaine
pops in over his
screams.
shoulder, just like, you want me to call the cops?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
You want me to call the cops? That's Richard Dreyfuss. But anyway, point is, it's a great cast. And I think we might have talked about this way back on the Midnight Cowboy episode, but Dustin Hoffman's run, this was Dustin Hoffman's first big role, right? Like it was a surprise for him to get this. And like I read some things where he was talking about how sort of brave it was for Mike Nichols to give him this role or whatever. But like from The Graduate on, just in the next couple of years, he'd go in Midnight Cowboy, Little Big Man, Straw Dogs. But then like he never stops. Dustin Hoffman has an insane run of great work for sure into the 80s, honestly into the 90s. And then it starts to get a little more sporadic, I guess, as he starts to work less. But
Hopefully not so worried about his future,
yeah, exactly. All the President's Men and Marathon Man were in the same year. Like late 60s into the 70s is a hell of a run. Kramer versus Kramer's in there too. Anyway, but this was the start of it all for Dustin Hoffman too. But just getting some of the pedigree of the movie real quick. Nominated for 7 Oscars. So did big critically acclaimed hit there. 7 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress, Supporting Actress, Adapted Screenplay, and even Cinematography. It was nominated for, which I was a little surprised by until I started looking that up. Which we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. But and then Mike Nichols won for Best Director, which this was just his second major.
This was supposed to be his first, though.
Yeah, he agreed. I had read something about he had agreed to do this. So he took a significant pay cut on this because he had agreed to do it before Virginia Woolf. Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf is his first movie.
Yeah, nuts.
And then The Graduate is his second one. I mean, obviously, like, it's not that from lack of experience, right? Because he was on it. He was on Broadway forever, and he'd done a ton of work, came up with Elaine May, doing all that famous comedy stuff. But
it's a very different type of movie, though, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, right? It's an adaptation of a stage play, and I think that the movie really much feels that way in terms of its blocking and camera angles and whatnot. But I don't know. It's just, I still see some semblances of that throughout The Graduate, whether it would be interior house parties or even in the hotel. All of those scenes, the blocking on it feels very stage-like to me, but I don't know. I dig it. It's really fun.
The other impressive thing that I like about this is the writing team on it, which it's so cool because it's one of those things where as a director, assembling the right team to do this movie in the right way, like the writers that he brought in on it, Buck Henry, who's one of these classic comedy all-timers guys, like he came from the Steve Allen show and Get Smart and all that stuff. He came up through the sort of sketch comedy ranks basically, and then he co-wrote it with Calder Willingham, who was mostly a novelist, but also he wrote Paths of Glory and Bridge on the River Kwai and Spartacus and things like that. So it's like,
honestly, perfect
really
mix.
Yeah, right? Like that, what a great combination of people to write this movie. And then Robert Surtees, who, this will be the first of several times I'll invoke the American Cinematographer article about The Graduate. But Robert Surtees is, at this point, was like a grizzled veteran of a DP. He was a assistant camera all the way back in like the 20s and 30s, started DPing in the 40s. But he shot movies like 30 Seconds Over Tokyo and Oklahoma and Mutiny on the Bounty and Ben-Hur. So like he'd done just about everything. And then I read this quote where he talked about, it's like, I needed to use everything I'd learned over the past 30 years to pull off The Graduate, because The Graduate was such a complicated thing for him to pull off as a DP, as it turns out, which is fascinating because it's a relatively simple movie. And like, it could have just been like a point and shoot kind of here, like to your point, Nick, a stage production, like we're going to get performances and you just need to make sure they're lit. But like, that wasn't Mike Nichols' plan at all, which is really interesting. So like visually, this is a sneaky, interesting movie, I think.
Just to go back to Buck Henry for a second, it's what a fascinating dude. Of like, the fact that he was writing this movie as he was writing Get Smart.
Oh wow!
Which I don't know if you guys are big Get Smart fans, but like that was a TV land is invented And I'm pretty confident that was like one of the early launch shows of TV Land. And like my dad was like, all right, Mike, sit down. We're going to watch. You know that Inspector Gadget shit you're watching on Cartoon Network? Let me show you
Let me show you the better version.
Yeah, let me show you the real version. It's crazy he went from that to The Graduate, and then he kind of continued to work with Mike Nichols for a while. Like he did Catch-22 with Mike Nichols, and they worked on a movie called Day of the Dolphin, which to this day has one of the craziest log lines of a movie I have ever read. Have you ever seen Day of the Dolphin?
I've not.
Have you seen it, Clint?
It really is. This is about to. We've talked about this before. I haven't seen it, but Nick, this is going to sound like it's a 80s cocaine movie here in just a second, but it's not.
It's not. And just know that it's directed by Academy Award winning director Mike Nichols, written by Academy nominated writer Buck Henry, starring a young Paul Sorvino,
George C.
Scott, and it's called The Day of the Dolphin. And then the tagline is, he unwittingly trained a dolphin to assassinate the president of the United States.
So and then I don't know. It's the double feature of dolphin movies of this and Johnny Mnemonic.
Yeah, but like
incredible.
Johnny Mnemonic.
I have never seen the term unwittingly do so much heavy lifting.
Yeah,
and a lot.
That is the key word in that tagline.
I gotta track this movie down.
Yeah, unwittingly.
He unwittingly trained a dolphin to assassinate the president of the United.
I mean, there's unwittingly, and then there's unwittingly training a dolphin to assassinate the president of the United States,
which,
two very different things.
Again, just all-time best logline I've ever read in my entire.
Is that on the blacklist of screenplays?
Well, no, it's been produced.
Yeah, there we go. We're good then.
It's a Mount Rushmore kind of movie in terms of how influential it is and how sort of well regarded it is. It's an icon. And so it's another one of these movies where people have their doctorates in The Graduate analysis, I'm sure. But I think to me the coolest thing about this movie, and revisiting it now and like doing all this research about it's I hadn't seen it probably since college.
Oh wow!
As when someone should see it.
It's been a while. Like I know I've pulled B-roll for it for CineFix over the years, like because again, you can't talk about movies without eventually talking about The Graduate. It's one of those movies. But have you seen it recently? Is this a movie that you guys like revisit every now and then?
I'm going to say I revisit it every now and then, but I'm going to say this is a key turning point. This is the first time I've watched a movie since I have become older than Anne Bancroft. As like when she shot it, right? She was like 35, 36 when it was shot, and it's just like,
when he's like, she's 36, I was like, oh my God, no, what do you mean she's 3 years older than me right now? What the heck?
Like,
yeah. So when you said that you mentioned that to me earlier, I got the age of the rest of the cast. Murray Hamilton is just a year older than I am now in this movie. He was like 44.
Yeah.
And William Daniels was 40. He was a nice round 40.
Wow.
Which is in my rearview mirror. So this is it's one of those, I don't know, those memes pop up where it's just like, hey, anybody that's born in 1982, just recognize that you're the same age as this old guy was in that one famous movie. I hate those very much, but here we are.
Plastics.
Exactly. How do you mean?
There's a great future in plastics. Think about it. Will you think about it?
Yes, I will.
I've said. That's a deal.
This movie does a lot for me, which is I put it in the same context of have you ever read The Sun Also Rises by Ernest Hemingway?
Yes.
Right? Like these are very much of like we have accomplished this thing and we don't really know what to do with our lives right now, but there's no rush to get on with the next thing. Mm-hmm. And I have a soft spot for stories like that. And like every time I'm in like a moment of change, I generally go back to like either this, I've read that book multiple times. Like I feel that vibe. And I think that this movie hits that college transition. It was as poignant in 2009 to me as it was in 1967 when it was made.
I mean, I think that's the appeal of this movie, though. I think that there is something so timeless, no matter who you are, about not really knowing what's next in your life and kind of feeling stuck and torn between multiple worlds and everyone figuring out what's the correct thing for you to do versus how you feel. And that's the thing that is the universal truth of a movie like The Graduate. For me, like, I discovered it when I had first really got serious about movies, aka I discovered the Criterion Collection and wanted to make it my entire personality, right? And so it's like one of those movies people are like,
Been there, man.
You gotta watch it. You gotta watch it. So, I watched it for the first time. I bought it sight unseen, and I was enthralled. I loved it. It was one of the first times, like, I did like my film school stuff of doing film analysis and history, but when you have to do it for homework, it's not as fun. So being able to watch a movie just in the comfort of my own home, not a worry in the world or an assignment to do, and seeing something that feels like it could have been shot yesterday to some extent, just in terms of its tone, its style, and just how electric the momentum of this script is a thing that really stood out to me at the time. And also, and Bancroft, man. I was a fan as a college kid.
Well, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there's a reason that a movie like this, we're doing a podcast about it 60 years later. Like, it makes sense, that there's something about it that lasts, and that's the fascinating thing with this. And it's, when movies initially come out and everybody loves them and they're popular movies and everybody thinks, well, this is the next greatest movie of all time. You don't really know that until 40 or 50 years later, and you're still talking about it. I mean, we ran into that with Sunset Boulevard. You already mentioned, like, it's those movies that it's just like, I can still relate to this movie, even though these people are, long dead. Or whatever.
And that's the magic of movies, right? Like the fact that you can step into the roles of these shoes in a time out of place, and you just understand everything that's happening. But one thing I did want to touch on a little bit, and this might be veering us slightly off course, but every now and then when we watch like an older movie for something like this, I like to look at the critics of the time, what they were saying and how they were kind of perceiving things, or in the rearview mirror. And one of my favorites, I'm sure a lot of people are aware of her, is Pauline Kael on her, I believe it's in her book, Trash Art and the Movies. She has just an incredible excerpt. She is basically 50-50 on the movie. She really likes the first half of the movie and then feels that it kind of betrays itself by delving into this sort of romantic notions of youth and suddenly turning into a soap opera parody of herself. But one of the things that stands out about her writing on this film, and I'm going to read this verbatim, is what's interesting about the success of The Graduate is sociological, the revelation of how emotionally accessible modern youth is to the same old manipulation. The recurrence of certain themes in movies suggests that each generation wants romance restated in slightly new terms, and of course, it's one of the pleasures of movies as a popular art that they can answer this need. And yet, one doesn't expect an educated generation to be so soft on itself, much softer than the factory workers of the past who didn't go back over and over to the same movies, mooning away in fixation on themselves and thinking this fixation meant movies had suddenly become an art and their art. So it's one of those things where it's like, I was like, damn, Polly, you feel like you're really leaning into me on that one. Like, I felt like I really needed to undercut everything we just said with what Kael was talking about. But I really do appreciate her sort of insight. Like, I think she is a far more clever writer than I will ever be. And just getting that, like, it's good, but take a step back and it's like, why is this so popular? Why is it that people are so obsessed with reliving youth? Like, apart from the obvious answers, I don't know. I just thought that was very, very insightful from her.
No, it's funny too, because she'll taking the long view of it too. Like, she's doing the kids these days thing, but she's also doing like kids these every days.
Mm-hmm.
Like every generation needs to. But I love the factory workers didn't cry like this. Like, that's
She's brutal, man, but I love her.
Yeah, no, that's fun. It is always fascinating to go back and look at contemporary criticism of movies like this that are so, like, because they're hard to watch outside of, well, this is the best movie of all time, kind of, with using like that as the lens that you're watching it through now. And so it's fun reading contemporary critics that didn't like something like this too, which is always a good bit of perspective. All right, shall we get into brilliant moments?
Yeah, that said, let's talk about how brilliant everything in this movie is.
Let's talk about how great this is.
I mean, I immediately like. I don't think you can talk about anything in this movie other than literally its opening credits. Incredible stuff.
I don't pick up my luggage in LAX without thinking of this.
It's so novel to just see how things used to be, which is part of the charm of this movie, of being able to just get off a plane effortlessly. Also, planes looked way cooler back in the day, and just being able to
Everything was cooler back in the day.
hop off a plane. You got your Simon and Garfunkel playing, and just immediately the thing that stands out is the unusual framing that Nichols is using here throughout the entire opening montage. I think this entire opening sequence really sets the tone for the movie, and you really understand what is up with Ben immediately. You're like, oh, dude, this guy's sad. He doesn't know what's going on.
Well, and even just the first shot that we get, like he's off center, he doesn't have a lot of nose room, he's trapped in there, he's crowded by the frame, and then it pulls out and he's even more crowded than you thought he was, So right off the bat, like you don't feel good. You feel a little trapped.
Also, just like two things. A, do you think he was raw dogging it the entire flight?
Historically, maybe the first person to ever raw dog a flight. That's exactly what I was.
The first documented raw dog flight.
Because he was just staring dead ahead, and like, what a great way to use environment to kind of more or less, give visual metaphor for like his status at this, which is like, he's standing still, but life is still moving past him, and like to get that kind of. What's the word I'm looking for here? I guess visual metaphor in a single shot while you're just getting through the opening credits is just incredibly efficient use of storytelling.
As other people pass him by.
The other thing, other people are passing by, there's all that, but the thing that this does for me more than anything is like he's being moved.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Like he has no agency in this shot. And so like that happens, and I think once we get to this party, when the movie starts in earnest, like we get a lot more of that, of people trying to direct him and to move and to make him get into plastics, or everybody's got their ideas about what he needs to do next, but he doesn't know and he doesn't care. And so like the idea that this shot is literally him just being moved into the future, like is incredibly poignant, meaningful.
And like Hell or High Water, or most David Fincher like intro title sequence cold opens or whatever, this entire sequence tells you exactly what this movie is going to be about and who is going to be in it. I think that this movie's use of sound and, of course, silence is also very important to the movie, and I couldn't think of a better way of hammering that home than Simon and Garfunkel's Sound of Silence.
Sound of
Silence. And literally the song is instructing you of what the problem is. There's people talking without speaking. They are listening without hearing. And it's just like, dude, this is like the beauty of cinema here, where song, dialogue, and visual metaphor all comes together to really just do something in a way that no other medium can. And it is just, it's so fun.
I do wish we had more of that, more examples of like a whole album of pop music being made to score a film.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want more of that. That's just a cool thing. But yeah, it's, and the other thing that it does, because obviously that shot is, and I want to say it's probably in the exact same hallway on the exact same people mover that Tarantino used the front of Jackie Brown.
Yeah.
Every time I fly into LA, I get out of that terminal too, and it's still there. It's great. The interest, and this is why I was kind of surprised, but then that it was nominated for Best Cinematography. But then watching it, knowing that, you start to see why, and you start to see why there's some shots, and there's this movie is full of shots that, number one, like this first one that has been borrowed famously in Jackie Brown. And then it's probably been borrowed. Somebody thought it was a Tarantino shot and has borrowed it since Jackie Brown, I'm sure. But
the fun part about the Jackie Brown shot that I really like, though, is that like it flips it on its head, right? So it does the standing still when she's on that, and then she gets off the people mover and starts running.
Yeah.
And then it's also staying with her. So it's so good.
It's like ripe for parody in a way that film builds upon others that came before, and using it, not parody as in I am, taking the piss out of the movie or whatever. But it's parodying to effect of elevating, and it's also like revisionist in that regard, where it's like, you've seen this before, and here's how we're zagging for you. And I really like that.
No, it's one of those, like, this technique can work for us. Like, so long as it's working, because, there's so many shots in this movie that I feel like are worth imitating. But I don't know how often they have been. It opens with one, obviously, but then, like so many times you can imagine hearing about, it's like, oh, give me that dolly zoom from Jaws. We're going to do the Jaws on this scene. Or like, Scorsese in Mean Streets being like, I want this scene to just do the exact same thing that they did in Breathless. Like, that happens all the time. And I feel like looking at some of these shots, and there's a couple that we'll get to and we'll talk about. There's one it's one of my favorite things I've ever seen in a movie that comes up later. But there's shots that I'm surprised I haven't seen more of, to be honest. And that's why, like, thinking about this as a best cinematography nominee, and then thinking about like how expressive the visuals are in this movie. It's weird that it hasn't been imitated more, and it probably has been. I just can't think of it.
But we see him literally drowning with everything surrounding him. Like, it's so good.
Listen, everybody, I want you all to be quiet. I've got Ben's college yearbook here, and I just want to read you some of the wonderful things about Ben. Be quiet, please. Captain of the cross-country team, head of the debating club, associate editor of the college newspaper in his junior year.
Do we want to get to the metaphorical use of water now, or do we want to just talk about that as it comes up?
It's one of the first things that pops up in the movie, so we certainly can.
Because it's like, him being underwater the entire time and just like not having to deal with like the aquarium, not aquarium, fish tank behind him, right? But then there's the later scene where he just gets the scuba gear. By the way, how much does that shit cost? Like, what kind of disposable income are these people working with here that they buy their kid an Alfa, that they're buying their kid an Alfa Romeo and scuba gear for what? Yeah. For a bit? Like, to have the people to have a cookout so we could just like jump. Anyway, like the fact that like they always constantly play with like the underwater bit, and the thing that I don't know if I totally caught it when I was 20, but I definitely pulled it this time around, which is like the semblance of like being underwater is like feel like you're drowning in like the current circumstances. I think we can all agree that like a fountain is kind of like a celebration of life. It's like a watering hole. It's more optimistic. And I don't think it's a coincidence that they chose to do the framing of when he sees Kathleen Ross at Berkeley through a fountain.
I mean, all of Ben's major life motivation comes through the form of water to some extent. Like, we see shots of him, of course, underwater. He's framed by the aquarium. We see him.
He's floating
adrift at sea to some extent, right? He doesn't know. He's just letting the current.
Some of the major scenes take place. It's raining too. There's a lot of rain in some significant spots too.
The current.
I don't think it's actually raining. By the way,
it's very much not.
It's
the way that they. So Robert Surtees had there was a moment apparently where they were just in between setups or something. They were talking sort of philosophically about filmmaking, and he said, like, there's a trick to, if you want to make something look a little more realistic, like add something from nature into the shot, add rain or fog or flowers. And so apparently Mike Nichols liked that so much that he's like, all right, well, this driving scene, we're going to do it in the rain. And he was like, how am I going to get we're going to make it rain for 3 blocks in Beverly Hills in 1967
during the summer?
The answer was they rigged up a thing on top of the car to make it rain just kind of on the car and drove through Beverly Hills that way. He had to come up with a lot of new stuff to pull this off, right? Like, and because Mike Nichols very specifically wanted the film to look the way that Dustin Hoffman's character felt. Like, it was, the visuals of the movie needed to be the same as the emotional state of Benjamin, right? And so there's a great quote. Let me see if I can find it here. Surtees comments, on The Graduate, I had to forget all the years of trying for perfect photography. On that film, it was not how beautiful the photography was that counted, but how emotional and exciting it was. For me, this challenge was very stimulating. The days flew by all too fast, and each one seemed like a separate creative life. So like, it was very intentionally not consistent. There wasn't a look for the movie. It was a look for the scene and a look for the feeling that was going into it. And they did all kinds of things, like he's floating in the water and it's when the Robinsons come over. And so he's looking up at his parents and they're kind of silhouetted. He's floating in the water and then the Robinsons come up and they're silhouetted too. They did a thing called pre-fogging the film, which again, this is one of those great sort of like the chemists that you had to be a photographer in these days. They did what's called pre-fogging, which means you expose the film stock like to a certain percentage of its ISO or whatever. You expose it to like a consistent bit of light for a little bit, and then you load it back into the camera and shoot the image. So what that does is like it fogs up the shadows. Like the shadows get milkier. Like you can see this shot that looking up at the parents, the silhouettes aren't like dark, but they're sort of just kind of faded and milky. And then the highlights all kind of sparkle a little bit. And so they did that. They did a bunch of the night stuff. When they go to the whiskey later, they do that. But it's this cool thing. We talked about it with Tanner on an Eyes Wide Shut episode a bunch about like photochemically, the stuff that they had to commit to get a look that sort of vibes with how Dustin Hoffman feels at any given moment on screen.
And kudos to them. It's like that is a choice that you don't know if that is going to work out for potentially days later.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's a commitment in a way that we're not used to in like modern modern video period. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just we've never had a commit like that. There's never been a shoot where we've been on where it's just like look in the monitor and be like, oh, this is what you see is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to process the film first and then shoot the thing and then develop the film later. And then, it's, you know, we talked about it in Empire too, about like knowing what you want the thing to look like creatively, step one, and then having the like logistics brain to actually make that work and the skill to actually pull it off correctly. It's I don't know, there's three halves of the brain all working together at that point, which is great. But again, it speaks really to, because that was what Nichols wanted to do with this movie, like visually be in the same emotional space as his main character, and he knew he wanted to do that. And so it was going to be some rule-breaking camera work and rule-breaking sort of cinematography, but he had to go get a guy that like had been working on major movies for 30 some odd years, who had helped establish the rules of cinematography, frankly. Like get somebody that knows the rules so well that he knows how to break them in the right way to be meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's such a savvy choice to get. You get a comedy writer and a guy that wrote Paths of Glory novelist to write the thing, and then you get a grizzled veteran cinematography to shoot it. Like it's, I don't know, that's one of those things that is the choice that he made in assembling the team to make this is largely why it's so memorable, I think. But
shall we get to the greeting, the welcoming party? Because I think that's one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie.
yeah.
Yeah, no, we see Ben getting ushered home after his flight in. You know, he's the fresh college undergrad and the talk of the town and the talk of the neighbors, and basically just a pony for his entire family's like friends and everyone else.
I think you want to talk about like set that like just working overtime. The sad clown.
The sad clown.
The sad clown is still one of the funniest things to this day. I'm like, dude, this is incredible. That transcends
painting. Listen, if you guys are wondering what to give me for my birthday, sad clown painting would be high on the list. But the thing I love about this shot is when he's getting showed around because he's already told his parents like, I don't want to go down there.
Yeah.
Don't make me go down there. He's like, come on, come down here. And then it's a oneer that sort of follows him around the house, and he's getting cornered. But it's a tight close up of a oneer, which is a thing that you don't see much. Like it's right. It's perfect for this scene because he doesn't know who's down there. He doesn't see everybody coming. He can't dodge them. But like we don't see it. People are coming in from off screen. We don't see what danger is lurking around the next corner or the next time the camera pans. Like it's all tight and he can't get out of it, and it's perfect. But it's all because it's this very long lens, tight close up of a oneer, which you don't see those kind of shots.
It's super suffocating, and like as we get kind of at this point the audience gets it. These are just a bunch of like, you know, affluent, well-off people who, you know, they mentioned Tarzana earlier, so they're in a more wealthy part of Los Angeles. So you kind of get a feel for who all of the who, what, where, when, and why of everything. And then again, just one of my favorite people. Anytime I ever want to sound like I'm wealthy, I always just tell people plastics. You got to invest in plastics. So like it just absurd cartoon characters and caricatures of wealth is just so funny. And it's just so clever. And it's just a nice loving jab at, I think, something that is really important and vital to the movie, because again, these are the people who have now determined what Ben's life is going to be like and what he can expect to become at some point in his life. And as we can see from Dustin Hoffman's excellent portrayal here, he doesn't really show much. Like I've always likened his performance here, and bear with me on this one, to this is what happens if Antoine Donnell from the 400 Blows grows up and becomes American suddenly. Like it's just a dude who does not know how to operate. He's just a dude who does not know how to operate in normal society, and we just have this is the next movie in the sequel to his movie, even though that movie got a sequel. Got like two.
Tell me again how you were going to make the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, exactly. I watched the 400 Blows right before this, all right? No, but I just like the socially awkward kind of outcast of society, even though he is a cross-country award-winning runner, debater, all of these things. None of those really show here. He doesn't show that he is this actual trophy his parents are pretending him to be, and I really like that. And then the only time we do actually see, after the plastic scene, we get our first glimpse of Mrs. Robinson kind of eyeing her prey to some extent, which is really good.
Just casually in the background too. Like it's great. It's not a shot that lingers on her very much. It's blocked in just the right way to where it's like we're looking at her. We're clearly looking at her, and like there's a pause in the blocking where he stops to talk to somebody, and then we can see her eyeing him in the background for just a beat, and then he moves on past it. It's such great blocking.
And we've been talking a little bit more about water as a motif that's present throughout the movie and how it kind of represents him drowning. And I just love the scene where she's basically just invading his space, saying, "You are going to drive me home." And she throws him the keys, and it lands in the aquarium, causing a ripple in the water. So it's like, for the first time, someone's managed to kind of break through the stagnant water of his life. And I think that's just such a fun and clever choice.
Talk about like the cinematography, right? Like through the fish tank on his face, she just like walks in, and then we're gonna get to the blocking of like him taking her home, but like everything about her is just incredible here. She just commands the scene.
Mm-hmm. She is in control of her life in the way that Ben is not.
The way that she enters this room and looking at her through his fish tank, and then later, like in the early parts of this, of us knowing Mrs. Robinson in this movie, like the way that she's photographed is all from his perspective, and it's all they're obviously the most famous shot in the whole movie, under her leg looking at him. It's like she's sort of used to visually to like speak to his feelings and his state. And it's not until there's the big long conversation that they have in the kind of at the midpoint of the movie where he's like, "No, let's talk before we get to this." Like that's the moment where we actually finally get where she kind of gets her own shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She's in the foreground, the focus stays on her. He's kind of moving around the room, and like he's the more sort of temporary energy in the scene, and it gets to focus on her, which is a really interesting shift in the visuals of the movie, because it's not, again, like there wasn't a hard and fast rule for like from frame one all the way through the end. Like this movie's about Benjamin, so everything's going to be from his perspective, but like it shifts subtly, and like depending on what emotions are being portrayed visually, like everything changes from one scene to another, which is fascinating to watch. Again, like before I watched it today again for the first time start to finish in a long time, like I never would have picked The Graduate as like, a movie's visually really stunning. Like that was not The Graduate wouldn't have even been in my top 25 and responses to that question, but it's fascinating.
I also think, like, as you talked about, like, Mrs. Robinson getting her own, like, shots dedicated to her, we're now suddenly seeing things, and we're seeing the world through her perspective. Part of what makes this movie, I think, so timeless and so interesting to watch at different points in your life is, you know, if you're a first-time young man watching this movie, you, of course, identify with Ben here. But as you get older, you start to realize, you know, hopefully you start to realize that other people have their own sense of agency and they have their own problems going on. And I think that as you see that she's no longer like this mythic figure to Ben, because suddenly they are on some even playing field to some extent. And we start to recognize like, oh, that is a human being that's there with their own pain and their own things that they're dealing with, and dealing with them in very particular ways. And you can't help but feel a little bit of empathy for her here. And it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, I get it. And I really like that change in POV that I think really comes home as you get older and start to recognize more and more of these things.
Mrs. Robinson?
I'm in the bathroom.
Well, here's the purse.
Could you bring it up?
Well, I'll hand it to you. Come to the railing and I'll hand it up.
Benjamin, I'm getting pretty tired of all the suspicion. Now, if you won't do me a simple favor, I don't know what.
I'm putting it on the top step.
For God's sake, Benjamin, will you stop acting this way and bring me the purse?
Are we ready to talk about the entirety of her seduction of
It's so good.
because like it's long.
It is.
It's like 4 scenes long.
I would have given up if I was her after a moment like
Dude.
2. the chances this man gets, and he's just bad at zero the entire time.
It starts in his room when she's like, drive me home.
Yeah.
And that takes some effort to convince him.
She just throws the keys.
Pulls up to the front of her house, and she's like, you gotta walk me in. And that takes some doing to convince him to do that. And then it's like, well, you gotta walk me to the back of the room. And then, are you uncomfortable? And then there's a whole conversation in the sunroom. And then it's like, do you want to go see the painting? And then he's awkward the whole time. And then now he like the power dynamic in this. I mean, what is it? 15 minutes worth of this movie?
Yeah, just about
Across 3 or 4 scenes, and like she is in complete control the entire time.
It feels like she's training him too.
She's like the Ethan Hunt of seduction. You know, like every roadblock that he throws up, she like counters and gets what she wants in the end. You know, it's hilarious.
2 things we got to talk about. A, all the poor man ever wanted was bourbon, and all anybody ever pours him is scotch.
Yeah.
And
I love this scene at the back end of this when Murray Hamilton is like, you want bourbon, please? And he just pours him another scotch.
also, those decanters are just the most ridiculous things.
Those things rock so hard. I want them in my home immediately. They're so cool.
Those are the most ridiculous things I have ever seen.
And also, there's one that you have that's just a lighter. Like, I don't understand how that works.
Oh, my
all
parents
right.
had one of those.
Oh,
it's just
wow.
No, it's like filled with kerosene or whatever. Yeah.
That's so cool.
we gotta spend. Before we just like move on. I just wanted to bring up the decanters because those things are incredible.
Yeah.
But like we really need to talk about like the leg shot.
Oh yeah.
Of, are you trying to seduce me? Is Robinson like?
Yeah.
It is one of the most iconic shots of all time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how you get to that. Like, I don't know when you figure out that framing, but like, my God, I had that.
It's funny is it makes a lot of sense in some ways because it does a lot of the same things that they've been doing from the very first shot of him on the plane. Like, he's trapped.
Yeah.
And he's cornered by his situation, no matter what situation that is. And so it's like, how do we portray that in this scene? And then like but yeah, to your point, like I wonder if it was because I do know that they rehearsed and blocked the living hell out of this movie and shot it, very precisely with not a ton of coverage. But yeah, I don't know if it was a moment when she was flirting with him that she put her leg up there and they were like, oh, we got to get
through the leg.
Yeah. Yeah, or if it was more of or if it was Buck Henry's idea, or Robert Surtees. I mean, there's no telling. But yeah, it's one of the most famous shots ever put to film of all time. But like, it does the job that, the one consistent thing in this entire movie is that we're gonna feel the way Dustin Hoffman feels.
Mm-hmm.
And so to put us exactly in his head right then, like, this is exactly what he's looking at. And this is how he feels about it.
To be fair, though, she makes it very hard for him to look anywhere else because of how she's trying to seduce him. So it feels like, and again, it's not out of nowhere. There's like a slow build to it, right? And it's like, it's starting to be one of those things where you're like, oh, Jesus, is she allowed to do this? Like, what's going on? And then suddenly this happens. It's like, oh, wow, nope, she is absolutely trying to seduce him. Because there is this level of reasonable doubt that's present throughout until we get to this moment, I think.
I can't just stay here by myself. You got to wait with me until my husband comes home.
Like, all right, okay.
It'll be hours, by the way.
I mean, he is a young 20-year-old, so he's probably pretty stupid. So that all tracks. That all tracks.
But like the breadcrumbs that she drops the entire time, and you're talking about and even in this moment where he's like, "You're trying to seduce me, Miss Robbins," she's like, "What? No!" And then he gets so embarrassed. Like that's another manipulation that she has in her arsenal that just breaks him in half. And like, there's no way he's not going to do what she says now. It's it is such a manipulative 15 minutes of this movie, watching her do this to him.
Great gaslighting.
And great gaslighting.
Also, this scene does a good job of just showing a level of wealth that the Robinson household is dealing with. That it's like, oh, interesting. It's planting a seed, I think, as well with the whole set dressing of this entire sunroom / bar, which, by the way, is sick as.
So let me ask you this, like, because we're like business relationship between the Robinsons and the Braddocks, right?
The Braddocks,
yeah. We talking like a Buck Strickland, Hank Hill kind of thing here?
I think so.
Yeah, because I mean, like,
it doesn't seem to jeopardize the professional relationship because throughout the movie, Ben's father never really and mother don't really. Nothing seems strained because of anything Ben does.
100%.
So that's the part where I'm like, okay, they can't be that close of partners.
Yeah, I think the Buck Strickland Hank, it's like they rely on each other. They're cordial. They're even like friendly, but like
they're pals.
Yeah,
maybe not friends, but pals.
But dude, the best part of this, not only how they use, like, exactly like in, speaking of which, and we talked about this a lot in Sunset Boulevard, how they use the stairs and stuff like that to connotate the power struggle and the power differential between the characters. Him tossing that purse, like, at the top of the stairs is like, that is why Robert Redford did not get this role.
There's the better reason. Yeah. Why Robert, the funnier story version.
Well, no, the actual story, but Robert Redford cannot convincingly do that. And like, do you know about this?
No, tell me.
Robert Redford was really campaigning hard for this role.
For the Dustin Hoffman role.
Yeah, for the Dustin Hoffman role. And Mike Nichols didn't think he was right for the role. And like, that doesn't stop Robert Redford. And he's just like, no, like, Mike Nichols is like, no one's going to buy you in this role. He's like, what do you mean? Like, I understand what this guy is going through. And he's just like, Mike Nichols asked him, he's like, have you ever struck out with a girl? And then Robert Redford is like, what do you mean? And he's like, exactly.
That rocks.
And like seeing,
didn't he like sit him down in front of a mirror too?
Yeah.
Look at this face.
Yeah.
Like, is there like, does that face have any trouble getting women?
Yeah. And like, there's just no way that Robert Redford, even if the purse toss was written into the script, there is no way he could convincingly make that look as pathetic as Dustin Hoffman did it, which I think the three of us can all agree is the exact way we would have evolved our.
Yep. Like, yep.
That's what makes Dustin Hoffman's performance
He's
so
like
convincing. It's like, he's just the perfect awkward boy.
Yeah. He's just like a dog. He just like drops it and then it's like, no, bring it over here. And you're like, all right. It's so good. It's so good.
One thing I'm curious about too, as we kind of get to the scene where, hey, I'm in the bathroom, bring it in here. No, actually just leave it in Elaine's room where we were. One, it's hilarious that I know people used to commission paintings of their family, but it's wild to just have a portrait of your daughter staring at her as she's in bed and whatnot. But we get like, I think, Cal, you called it a flash frame, the world's first flash frames.
I mean, it is a flash frame.
Like, how was that received at a time? Because, like, even to this day, I'm like, mercy, are you allowed to do that in movies?
I mean, I think that's the thing, right? Like, this, like, Hollywood trying to figure out how they do this in the post Hays Code era. Because make no mistake, the Catholics would not have allowed that to happen.
Like this would have been the equivalent of the train driving towards the audience and them going, "What?"
No, and that's another thing why the mid to late 60s were so much fun, because they were just trying stuff. Like all of this, that The Graduate is a decently experimental film in a lot of regards, and then was as well received as it was in the time. Like, it really speaks to the context of the late 60s and like what people were wanting out of their movies and what people were willing to I guess stomach, was what the Hays Code was worried about. I don't know how to pay it.
I mean, dude, we're just going to hell more morally. This accelerated, but like two things I want to talk about this scene is like how the Hays Code, like dealing with the Hays Code and also dealing with the subjectivity of like the focus on Benjamin.
Yeah.
The triple take on the turn, right? So it's like they expertly use the reflection in like the painting to show her come into the room and close the door. And then it's like Liam Neeson jumping a fence and paving. It's 3 shots.
Oh God!
Of him turning around to get the like whiplash, like what the fuck, and it's incredible, and like you don't really think about the cognitive effect on the viewer doing it 3 times, but like when you sit there and like take it all in, it's so well done. All of the cinematography and framing, and like to your point, like the editing tricks and things like that, like expert.
It's working within constraints, and like obviously it's meant to be salacious. That's very clearly her intention here. But I think it doesn't feel like, I guess in a modern scene with nudity, it just doesn't feel it's lifeless in a way most modern nudity scenes aren't. Like there's just something stylish and elegant about the way it's implemented. It puts us in the state of mind of our main character, and he's doing the thing of like, I don't know where to look, but also there is a naked woman in front of me, so I have to look, kind of.
No, that's exactly what it is. Like it's the same. It's stealing a glance. Like he doesn't want to. Yeah. He's just going to steal a quick glance, and he can't help himself, and he's going to look at, and so like it's like putting us in his brain. I mean, you contrast this to their first night together, right? Where, and even like the the first Sound of Silence montage that we get of them sort of progressing in their relationship or whatever, and you get to the point where he's just laying back on the bed and like totally not comfortable with it because he doesn't know how he feels about it, but he's certainly not just very frantically stealing a glance, a frame at a time of her breasts or anything. Like, but in this first moment, like I feel like this is what the shower scene might have looked like in Psycho if he could have shown full frontal, like it's
kind of edited like that, isn't it? Like it's just like,
well, even like when when she first turns, it's just a little shot of her tan lines. And then when he's escaping the room, it's another one, like, so they were still dancing around stuff in the same way. But it was, hey, by the late 60s, like just 9, or no, not even 9. What was it? Psycho was what? It was 1960.
60, yeah. 7 years later.
So 7 years later, they're getting away with it.
She is pouncing on her prey the way Norman Bates does.
But you're right, Nick. It's not gratuitous. It's very it's emotionally accurate to what's happening on the screen, so.
And then just the shove aside.
It's maybe the first active thing he's done in the entire movie is move her out of the way so he can escape, which I think is very fun. He doesn't want to get in trouble.
Anytime you want, you.
Oh, Jesus, that's him.
But we also got to talk about the scuba scene, because I think this scene into the scuba scene, which is such an absurd. So his parents have invited everybody over to show off the scuba gear that he's got, and they're, it's funny because, everybody's like, "What are you going to do with yourself in the future? And you're an adult now, and congratulations." But they also treat him like such a weird. What did you say, pony? Is that what you?
Yeah,
he's definitely a show pony.
He's a trophy pony.
Treat him like such a little kid, and then here's a moment where, again, literally in his perspective, when we switch to the looking through the goggles and we hear the scuba apparatus, the breathing. I think my favorite part, eventually, he gets in the water. They even shove him back into the water.
His parents literally are drowning him in the water.
I mean, he has scuba gear. He's not drowning.
But
he does have
metaphorically, they're holding him underwater.
It's an incredible way to visually signify that he's even worse off now than when the movie started. He's even more lost and confused now than when the movie started.
Well, and if there was a lack of agency being shown in that first shot where he's literally being pushed along, now he's being pushed back underwater even more. And so that agency is not there. But the only thing that's changed is in his back pocket, he has this offer from Mrs. Robinson. And that's the coolest thing about this scene, I think, is when we're lingering on him underwater, we already start to hear him on the phone with Mrs. Robinson saying hey, can I take you up on this? Because he's drowned. He's been drowned by his parents, effectively. He has no control over his life. He's being trotted out and shown whatever. And so he's underwater, and that's where he's already made the decision. Yeah, you know what the hell? I'm gonna try this. And then we start to hear the phone call with him and Mrs. Robinson on top of this scene. And so it directly connects the additional loss of agency that he has is being pushed underwater with his decision to go and pursue Mrs. Robinson, which is such a cool juxtaposition of this, him underwater, and then also him calling Mrs. Robinson to start an affair.
An excellent use of sound or lack of sound as well, with just everything is drowned out underwater except for his breathing. And you know exactly what he's thinking about. The question I have for you is, why give him a harpoon? I don't understand the harpoon.
It looks ridiculous.
You're gonna buy a scuba sail without a harpoon?
Fair enough. I guess if I had the option, I would go harpoon.
He's a spear fisherman.
Yeah. He's on the hunt.
He looks just like the little guy in his fish tank have a spear?
Oh yeah, you're right.
They're dressing him up as
he
the
does.
guy in a fish tank.
Yeah, you are correct.
Which is also not an unbrilliant thing to do.
I agree. It is not unbrilliant.
His little fish tank. Yeah, it is not unbrilliant.
Yeah.
All right. What's another brilliant moment you guys want to talk about?
We got to talk about that hotel line. We're gonna just let's be real. Let's just commit right now. We're gonna go scene by scene.
Talk through the whole movie.
I mean, I watched it yesterday. I was like, oh shit, these are all brilliant.
They're all great. Yeah.
But again, going back to what I said, I think that the hotel lobby is her. It is, again, just it feels like a Three Stooges sketch almost the entire time, where it's just the most painfully
or a Bart Henry sketch.
Yeah, exactly. The most painfully awkward a human has ever been.
What my favorite part about this scene is, and I think what it all kind of boils down to, is how it's one step forward and two steps back, right? Now he's committed that he wants to engage in the affair, but he doesn't realize before they've only had to deal with each other in private, and now they have to do it in public. So him trying to get the hotel room and then being asked,
are you here for an affair?
Yeah, are you here for an affair? That's real Buck Henry shit. And then calling her from the payphone in the lobby to be and then to forget to give her the hotel room until she asks.
The genius of that joke too for me is is there something you want to tell me? And he immediately goes to that little kid thing of anytime me as a parent I say, is there something else you need to say? They go, oh, thank you. Yeah. They just assume. So it turns into that. It's such a perfect little kid response. Be like, listen, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much. Which is no, the room number. It's so at every turn he's shown to be this nervous little inept, inexperienced dude that is in over his head, drowning in water, perhaps. But he's so funny, and he almost ends up going to somebody else's party because he doesn't have enough spine to just be like, no, that's not what I was talking about.
I've absolutely been in those shoes where I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna go stand over here now.
Who's picking up the check for this?
That old episode of Friends. She
literally does pick up the check.
Well, she picks up the check for the drinks, but who's paying the bill on the checkout?
I mean, it's got to be him. He's the one who booked those.
as Mr. Gladstone.
Everybody knows him so well, but by the time he goes back to it, when he takes Catherine Ross back to the hotel, and everybody's like, like, oh, hello, Mr. What was it?
Gladstone.
Hello, Mr. Gladstone. Like, everybody knows him. So he's been paying for a night at this hotel, like, enough to where everybody knows him.
But back then, hotels cost like
$2 unless there's tipping, too.
That hotel did not cost $2.
Okay, fine.
Look at that.
I do really like, though, that we are still seeing this kind of inept puppy who just doesn't know how to not be a man, because that feels a little bit charged, but more so just take charge. Like, he can't even muster the courage to summon the waiter to get his drink. He can't muster the courage to pay the bill. He's just so unsure of himself and just, painfully awkward in the way a lot of young men are in that age in their life, which I really, really like this. And she is the one, again, who is this experienced, takes charge of the room type, A-type personality. And she is the one saying, waiter, we'd like a drink. I'd like a martini, please. Like, just, I really like that power dynamic still being present even when they're in public.
Other thing I want to add here, just friendly reminder, smoking is cool. All right.
Well, he didn't smoke. He started smoking because of her.
Yeah, because
as soon as he starts getting cool, you give him a cigarette.
Like, Anne Bancroft is like rocking that cigarette like she's like female Vogue.
She's cool.
Yeah. It just rules. And
but
at
like
bar,
as
it
the
don't
movie
matter.
as the movie goes on, he smokes more and he's more tan.
Yeah,
and
Like,
drinks
that's how we chart how cool.
drinks a lot of beer.
Mm-hmm.
A
Coolers.
lot of coolers. Honestly, that feels like a pretty great summer after graduation.
Dude, when his dad's asking was like, aren't you going to do anything else except drink in the pool? And I was like, dude, it's been like 2 weeks. Leave him alone.
Yeah.
We kind of touched on it already, but just, the first time they have the affair officially, and then it kind of transitions into that Sound of Silence montage.
Of like the summer affair.
Like, it is shown that he has not been fixed. This has not changed anything in his life. He is still kind of a passive passenger in his life, and everyone else is, walking by and basically putting him wherever he needs to go in order to see what's next.
We do need to talk about the one scene, though, that I think is like the most crucial to Anne Bancroft, like the Mrs. Robinson, the character, which is like when they're talking about art and stuff. And basically her trying like to come to terms with the fact that she threw away her life for like creature comforts. And now she's at a point where it's like, I think I'm willing to blow this up. And it is heavy. That whole scene where like he's like Benjamin's trying to talk to her about life, and then she's trying not to talk to him about it, but then like giving like hard truths that he is decades away from understanding. Is just so well done.
Do you like art? No. What did you used to study? Art. It's like, ooh, dude, that is just the 1-2 punch of he does not get it, but you're watching that as an older audience member, and it's just like, bro, you're not equipped to handle this, dude.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the fact that he's sort of not let off the hook in that moment. Because this is the scene we talked about earlier, where this is the scene that becomes Mrs. Robinson's scene for the first time. Like, she's not a prop in Dustin Hoffman's life anymore. Like, this is her scene. And so, for him to be so unaware and so oblivious to the answers that she's giving, and frankly, like how uncomfortable the questions are that he's asking. And it's weird that he's sitting there going like, tell me about how you got pregnant.
Yeah.
Like it's so, I know that is an uncomfortable line of questioning, but and Anne Bancroft's performance in this moment too, where she gets to sort of roll towards camera. And so she's in this really soft close up, and she looks concerned for the first time. Like, she looks like she's not in control, and she's not a big fan of it. And it's an upsetting conversation for her to have. And there are little moments where she starts to kind of have fun and sort of, I don't know if it's that she starts to feel sort of young again or whatever with the way that he's joking about things, but she a few fleeting smiles here or there, but it's a really great performance in this scene from her.
It's also one where he takes charge, like he's pushing this ahead as opposed to her. And he's out of his element, Donnie.
And I think his reaction, I think, is always a thing that stands out to me, because it's the first time where I'm like, oh, I don't like Ben. Is where you go straight to hell, Mrs. Robinson, where it's just like this level of, once he's been exposed as a child, he reverts in this sort of this masculine rage to some extent, where he is appalled that he's even associating with someone like her, which I don't know, it's just a thing. I'm like, yeah, dudes be like that sometimes, and it sucks. And yeah, when people,
well, it's a great thing because it doesn't let him off the hook for any of his behavior, you know, which I think in the back half of this movie, you know, to sort of circle back to the review that you found about it, for the second half of the movie to sort of, you know, I don't know that it does let him all the way off the hook for his behavior, but it, you know, it kind of does and it kind of doesn't. But this is a scene where you're like, no, he's out of line here.
It's also, I think
which is good to have that scene.
It's clever that the movie is also acknowledging that he is complicit in this as well, because I think that's a thing that we circle back to at the end of the movie when they're on the bus together, where I think the ramifications of everything they've done, I think it all starts right here with that seed is planted right here and doesn't come back up until the very end of the movie, I think.
And then he just goes on this weird quest for the back half of the movie to go find Elaine, and to marry her for it's I don't know. He's not all there.
It is wild to me that he had, again, you got so far not a charmer, this Ben. You can barely form a coherent sentence around a pretty girl. And his first date with Elaine, Mrs. Robinson's daughter. What a delightful train wreck.
Are we getting into that now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get into the whiskey.
What?
When was the last time you guys were at the whiskey?
What is with dudes taking women to like
very Taxi Driver?
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. Like either a porno or a strip club, and it's just
maybe he watched Taxi. Oh wait, no, he wouldn't have. Never mind.
No, he would.
Taxi Driver.
You wouldn't have seen it.
Travis Bickle watched The Graduate and then was like, I have an idea.
Yeah.
I worked in The Graduate.
Honestly, you probably did say that.
Yeah.
But how does this man pull off what he does in the span of 15 minutes? Like, worst date to suddenly kissing her on the front steps of this club that she was bawling.
There is one line that it tries to address that, where he's like, I just felt, and it's when they're eating burgers after this, because that's another great hard cut, is
dude,
when they go and all of a sudden they're eating burgers. But he says, like, I don't know, ever since I graduated, I feel like I need to be a jerk to everybody or something along those lines. She's like, I get it. All right. So like they have a connection about their particular moments, you know, the moment that they're having in their lives. Like they're both, you know, they're more or less the same age. But the other cool thing about this shot, this is another American cinematographer thing, is this was on a 500 millimeter lens.
Wow.
From inside a gas station across the street.
That's awesome.
When their exit from the whiskey, because they wanted to shoot it there, but they couldn't very well close the street or whatever. So they put new bulbs in the signage at the whiskey, and then they put a 500 millimeter lens in a gas station across the street.
Damn.
Because it had to be so that long a lens had to be so steady to actually get the shot.
Yeah.
That they had to like rig up a whole mount for it and all kinds of stuff. But they're across the street in a gas station shooting this.
It's effortless how the camera's able to capture them. Like we see the wobble, but it doesn't feel disorienting or anything like that. It's just people who are very good at their job are at work right now, which I really, really like.
Yeah.
And also,
I mean, that's a telescope, for Christ's sake. 500 millimeter, like it's, you know, and for just tapping it even slightly gives a big movement in the frame.
And I forget, are we hearing dialogue during this scene?
We are. Yeah.
Okay. But there's just something about the voyeur, like, again, as you said, I'm just a passenger. I am just another civilian on the other side of the street, and they happen to catch my attention. I really like the way the back half of this movie continues to kind of go to that POV where the audience is kind of in the same scene, but just removed from it and not important. I really dig that. And also those burgers and fries look so good.
Well, it's such a great choice too, to go from like a self-sabotaging trip to a strip club to like two kids having burgers. You know, like it's such a great like downshift in energy that happens immediately. Like they both just taken huge bites of their burgers and they're talking with their mouths full and they're like, I like being mean to people. It's like, oh yeah, so do I.
And also we see Ben for the first time actually having some like some gusto to him and telling him, hey, can you turn it down? Like old Ben would have never have done that. He would have never have like broken his boundaries to talk to another human being if it meant he could have a conversation with someone. And, you know, we see some actual growth here. And then also in the back of our mind, we're like, dude, you told Mrs. Robinson you weren't going to take her out and you weren't going to, this was just going to be a one and done type situation. And we see him falling in love, which is like just a wonderful, like ticking time bomb of where like, oh no, he fell in love. And now that we're going to see what happens as a result of that.
Listen, Elaine, it seems to me that there isn't a bar here. I mean, as far as I know.
Of course there is. Look, there's the palm room right there.
Good evening. Hello. How are you, sir? Good evening, Mr. Gladstone. Hello again.
Hi, Mr. Gladstone. How are you this evening?
I think the thing that happens next that I find, and this is the shot that I mentioned earlier about how it's one of my favorite shots that I've ever seen in a movie, is later when Mrs. Robinson threatens to tell Elaine to blow the whole thing up.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a moment where it's raining. It's raining in the car, first was another thing. And then they race up to Elaine's room, and Dustin Hoffman gets there first and tells her. And there's this incredible shot where Mrs. Robinson walks up in the hallway behind her, and she's looking at her through the crack in the door. And then Dustin Hoffman sees her, and Elaine, Catherine Ross, turns around to see her. And then the rack focus goes back to Mrs. Robinson. And then as Elaine turns around to face Dustin Hoffman again, it racks back, but slow, like really slow. So she's out of focus for a long time as it's all dawning on her. And then she gets crisp again in time to say like, no, oh God, no. Like, and so it's just, again, it's one of those visual things that's so incredible about this movie, about the idea of like, how do you visualize something dawning on a person outside of like just the performance, right? And the answer is the slow things coming back into focus of this one shot. It's such a cool, like seemingly obvious trick. It's one of those tricks that's just like, well, yeah, of course that's how it works. But it's like, no, somebody had to think of that. You know, it's the Van Halen thing of anybody can play Eruption. Yeah, but did you write it?
In this day and age where a lot of, you know, we're see headlines talking about how Netflix TV shows are designed to be written for someone who is occupied with their attention somewhere else, looking at a phone or a computer screen, where all the characters have to say what they're doing. Like this scene doesn't exist in that world, right? We don't see that level of craftsmanship in that world where she's saying, wait a second, you're having an affair with my mother?
I gotta hack the mainframe?
Yeah. Like that would be just such a deflation of the sales here. And it's just, man, that's a thing that's a bummer. Not to be like, movies were better back then, because maybe, but it's one of those things where I'm just like, oh man, it's a bummer that you lose those opportunities to do cool stuff like this.
I mean, as much as we gushed about the 60s in the front half of this episode, like they made bad movies then too.
Yeah, of course. At least those ones didn't tell you. Well, I guess some of them might have told you what they were doing, but still.
So, yeah, to be honest, I haven't seen them.
Blade Runner theatrical looking at you.
All right, what else do we want to talk about? We're running super long here.
Zoo?
Yeah, we need to talk about
the zoo
because you want to talk about like the
Well, I know you want to talk about the zoo.
Yeah, you know, camera work to like represent theme stuff. The monkey shots are incredible. If we're talking about how it's almost beat for beat the same exact composition of like Elaine figuring out about the affair, right? But it's like the shot where like Elaine goes off with the doctor with the pipe, and then he's staring at the monkeys just kind of like picking up like grooming each other, and then like, you know, he's dour about that, and then it cuts to a reverse shot of him, and then rack focus, like reverse shot of him by himself, and then rack focuses to like a big ape just sitting there by himself thinking, and it's just like, oh god damn it,
dude, the snap zooms in this really sell like the dramatic irony of everything we're seeing here, and it's so tasty.
But like it's also just incredible of like how to use the camera to just like totally negate millions of years of evolution.
And standing in front of the sign, "Do not tease."
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Like this is like create like I guess like in the history of cinema, not as much, but you know, like this works on the same level as 2001, where like the ape develops tools, like the ape develops tools, and it's just like, all right, we've not only developed the tool, but we've also developed war, and like everything is on a different path right now. This uses the exact same kind of technique to just be like,
maybe we aren't that. Maybe we haven't evolved that.
Yeah, we haven't evolved that.
Yeah.
But just that thinking ape,
Just a lonely gorilla.
yeah.
And I like, we don't get zooms much anymore. We really don't.
Yeah.
Zooms really stand out in movies now. But like the way that this camera work happens in this scene where we're on Dustin Hoffman, and then it starts to zoom on him before it, like it's not timed smoothly. Like there's a little bit of the seams that show in the camera move, because it like starts to move a little bit on him, and then it moves up to go and find the gorilla, and then it racks focus, and like, so it happens a little clumsily, which might be by design as well. It's I think this is one of those movies that you have to watch and think nothing is an accident.
Yep.
But the way that it just kind of stumbles past Dustin Hoffman to find a gorilla just like sadly chewing on something. It's so good.
And there is some also like level of the taxi driver. This is a little too pathetic. Let's look at something else kind of thing. Then I feel like there's a level of that going on too.
Where the camera just dollies away.
It's like
I don't want
out of
to be
respect.
here
Like
for this.
let's look at the monkey instead.
Yeah. No, that's great. Travis Bickle loved The Graduate, as it turned out.
I mean, not to belabor the point too much, but should we get near towards the end, like the church scene, or do we want to rewind a little bit? I leave it to you, Clint. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, listen, the church and all the way through the end, I think is
his car
wait,
break.
before we go to the church scene, there's one more thing I want to talk about while we're still in the dad. When the dad
confronts him.
When his dad confronts him. Like, that is a heavy scene that's done really, really well, insofar as it's just like just like he's smoking the stogie and he like walks in and he's like fucking petrified, and then
it's another like Psycho-esque shot.
Well, but again, and look at how it's framed though too. It's like we're back to the framing where Benjamin's trapped by something.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't have a lot of room in the frame, and Mr. Robinson is much heavier in the foreground.
He gets like 2 scenes and then this one, and this is all he needs to be like a fully fleshed out character. And it's just like, this guy is ruined. This guy's life is like ruined. I'm not gonna say through. I'm sure they clearly have problems in their relationship. They sleep in different bedrooms and stuff like that. I'm sure it's a road of small disappointments that gradually added up. Right. But like,
I do think Ben is a very easy punching bag to them.
Yeah.
In this regard, I think it's a way for them to unhealthily take out a lot of frustrations they might have about their significant other. And I do agree Ben is very much complicit in this, but I do think that there is this level of, they don't even talk to each other, Mr. and Mrs. Robinson, but they are all just using him, Ben, as the punching bag, the intermediary punching bag.
But he's like so good in this.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is another one of those, like, watching this movie in college versus watching it now in my 40s, and the same age as Murray Hamilton was when I was shooting this, which is wild. But like, the dude slept with his wife.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you got to confront him at some point.
It takes more than 2 to tango in those situations. I would wager. So like, there's the marriage not being strong enough to begin with to withstand that sort of thing is on him. But like, also, Ben slept with his wife. Like, go ahead, hate the guy.
Also, the fact that there's 2 stories, right? Like, that he knows the truth, because don't forget that Mrs. Robinson told the daughter that Ben raped her.
Yes,
and there is none of that. Like, Mr. Robinson here has the animosity of a man whose wife has been, consensually slept with by someone else, and not of a rapist. And it is so well done, of just like, you ruined my life, I'm out. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's very good.
I think I can press charges. I'm going to get behind both.
Yes.
Like, that's-
And of course, it scares Ben because he is just a child.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing how quickly he goes back to that energy too, right? Like, no, I'm so sorry. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm not, but yeah, and this leads more or less straight to the very end.
The frantic, car mounted camera driving through Northern and Southern California. I lose track of where we end up. Santa Barbara,
Back
where
and
we end
forth
up.
to, yeah,
Dude, that car, that Alfa Romeo is getting miles.
Dude.
yeah, it books, man. Especially he's doing like 85 the whole movie. But yeah, this frantic search for the church and going and seeing this meatheads that all, by the way,
dude, the frat of Robert Redford,
same blonde haircut.
Dude, they're so good.
It's like
so good.
it's like they got every Robert Redford like stand-in to just be like, I'm gonna show Bob. I'm gonna get all of his stand-ins from like,
and they are all the stereotypical.
It's like if you don't look like Robert Redford, you need to look like Paul Newman.
yeah.
They're the jocks who are like, oh, tell him to save me a piece of the cake. I mean,
They're
makeout
the shotgun.
the makeout king. Yeah, it's like, dude, they were so tame with their nicknames back in the '60s, huh? The makeout king.
But
Give me a
those
break.
guys are all such meatheads.
Yeah.
And like, putting him in a position where he needs something from those guys is such a funny and absurd kind of frustration at this point in the movie. But again, it's perfect. It's the exact right choice.
And it is a Ben that would have never. This is a different Ben than the Ben at the beginning of the movie. Very clearly.
And you know what the funny thing is he's older than all those guys. Like he's graduated.
Yeah. He's technically their superior, right? Also, these shots of him just driving recklessly are nuts. Like, obviously, did they close the roads for stuff like this? Like, can you close the roads for stuff like this? I don't know. This is a thing that is out of my wheelhouse.
No, I think in 1967 they just kind of went and did it.
He's driving pretty recklessly. I love it. It's such a fun thing. And then him just, turning last second to get on the off-ramp correctly. And again, we get this beautiful montage of him stopping at the gas station, supposed to pump gas, also taking the chance to weave the story about becoming the minister who's going to officiate the wedding. The frantic nature of the gasoline. He is another voyeur in this situation where he's like,
and I just love having the attendant there just sort of casually eavesdropping.
Like, oh, what?
Like, dude sprints in and starts like rifling through the phone book, and he's just kind of like leans in a little bit to listen. Like, there's never a moment where the comedy, and that's not true, not never. There's a couple moments, but most of the movie, the absurdity of the situation, like there's always a little bit of comedy that gets tossed in, that gets mixed in with any whatever else is going on. And even in this case, it's just like, let's just put an attendant right there. I mean, it's a perfectly balanced two shot of Ben and the attendant. Like the attendant gets just as much weight in the frame as Ben does. So it's like, obviously, like the point of this shot is to also see a gas station attendant eavesdrop on Ben as Ben is doing this. I'm the minister. See, I forgot where the church is, and like, it's just funny.
Yep.
Yeah, any other movie would have done, your close-up coverage of him on the phone booth showing how frantic he is, but it's way more funny to watch someone else's reaction
just be like,
of the same thing, which is, the movie never loses sight of it. It is supposed to be funny.
But also it also gets the line too. He's like, wait, hey, like Padre, do you need some gas? And then the car runs out of gas.
And also it runs out of gas perfectly in sync with the downturn of the music as the music comes to a crawl naturally. And it's just like, ooh, this all just feels really good.
Oh yeah.
And then we finally...
Well, that's it. Well, I like that they did the acoustic guitar. Like, I'm just picturing Paul Simon timing his downshift in tempo with the car stopping, on a stage somewhere, which...
And then we get to see Ben use his track star form, his cross-country
goes.
Because I'm like, oh, this is booking it.
Yeah.
This is another one of those like mega zoom long lens, like one of the most famous shots. There's a couple, this movie ends with 3 remarkably iconic shots.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the long lens running straight to the lens, where it doesn't look like he's moving at all. It hardly looks like he's moving.
Yeah.
And Monty Python's going to make fun of this shot.
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. I didn't even think about
Yeah, it's a super long lens, and then I believe it zooms out a little bit. But then we get into the church, and the shot of him up there, like banging on the windows, is super iconic. And then, of course, the very last shot, or the second to last shot, I guess, of the whole movie, is he and Catherine Ross sitting in the back of the bus, like very. It's such a. I mean, that's what this whole movie is, right? Like summed up in that last shot of. They're laughing, they're having fun, they're summer after graduation. Life's nothing but life in front of them. And then slowly
the dawning.
What now? Like it's such a great choice to end this movie on them being like, oh shit. Which is great.
And dude, every single time, like this movie, I think is my favorite inevitable moment of him infiltrating the wedding, her running away. And the second he picks up the cross and starts swinging it at everyone, I am just like, dude, this is maybe the best movie I've ever seen in my entire life. It just, that scene alone sells like the absolute absurdity of the situation they're in. Yep. But there's still, it's not all comedy, right? We see Mrs. Robinson talking to Elaine, and she says, what does she say? I'm not going to be like you, or something like that.
It's too late. And she says, not for me.
Yeah, it's
and then Mrs. Robinson slaps
her twice. And it's just like, oh man, there's still some very real stuff happening here. But him swinging the cross and then trapping them inside with the cross to seal the door, it is so good. It is so funny.
Perfect.
And that is just timeless comedy right there.
Incredible. And then, the first of two Dustin Hoffman movies that end up with him on a bus with the love of his life.
Yep. So this is Midnight Cowboy, just a couple of years later. I mean, at least he's alive in this one.
Yeah.
To spoil the end of Midnight Cowboy. But
this entire movie, a lot of the comedy comes from seeing a lot of other people's reactions to our main characters. And what better way than just literally the entire bus staring at him? Like, that's hilarious.
They don't even look away either. It's not like they go back to what they were doing.
It always reminds me of like the every frame of painting YouTube essay is talking about like Kurosawa, and how it's way more interesting when you have a multitude of people reacting to the receiving of information, and that really just that kind of collective gaze is a thing that really resonates with an audience, and it's just funny, man. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Well, in theory, you're watching the movie with a group of people. Mm-hmm. You're out in the theater with a whole group of people watching it. So it would, particularly, at least in those days, maybe not so much anymore.
The Minecraft movie would like something that has some words for you.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. The Rocky Horror of the next generation.
What a picture!
Any other brilliant moments we need to talk about? I really think we talked about the whole movie.
We sped run the movie near the end, but I think that's all right. Like, I think
we sped up a little bit towards the end.
Our speeding up really reflects the kind of the kineticism of that back half of the movie.
Well, great. So long as we did something on purpose, I think it's going to be fine.
Couple of questions.
Shall we?
Couple of questions I got here. You think this would be an A24 movie today?
I mean, yeah. If it was going to be made at all, you think it would be made by A24?
Probably, right? Yeah. I mean, like,
or Neon.
Yeah, they do have a really good track record of like weird coming of age movies.
Yeah.
Because like, so it feels pretty on brand for them.
Because like, you wouldn't think about it, but this is like the whole time I'm watching this now. Because like I watch every movie now with like would people go to see this in theaters? And it's just like, this is weirdly a 4-quadrant movie that you wouldn't expect to be. Like, I guess now that I'm older than Anne Bancroft, I never realized how much that this movie plays to adults. Mm-hmm. Like, the entire time I've always kind of like looked at it through the eyes of Dustin Hoffman. And now that I'm getting into my Arrested Development years, because despite the fact I am older than Anne Bancroft, I do not have a child in college. So like, I clearly have not I have not traveled as many miles on the road of life as she has. But nevertheless, like, we all look at this through a different perspective now, and like, I'm kind of fascinated about the fact that like, I definitely think that there was like a lot of older adults in the 60s that also went to see this movie.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the counterpoint to making a movie about a 20-year-old graduate, and like very pointedly putting the camera, putting the sound, putting every part of your movie is pulling in the same direction of putting you in the emotional state of that graduate. Like, yes, graduates that are also 20 years old will understand that, but like the purpose of that is so that other age groups can also understand that. Like, here's what it's like to be in his shoes right now. So yeah, I mean, it's like, was this movie directed at 20-year-olds or was it directed at Murray Hamiltons?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but
Or both. All of it. I mean, as a 20-year-old, I liked it. As a Murray Hamilton, I still like it. So yeah. And I am Murray Hamilton. Maybe by the time my kids are in college, I'll look as old as Murray Hamilton does in this movie. All right, shall we do movie lists?
Do it.
That one rack focus shot that I love so much was a pick in our best shots of all time series. In fact, I think it was on the thumbnail, like part 4 or something like that. So it's for sure on there. You're Trying to Seduce Me, Mrs. Robinson was in the 100 most iconic lines of all time. That big collection. And then he got a shout out in top 10 satires in the relationships category. Got a shout out in best soundtracks and top 10 musical moments. I think I didn't have time to go back and watch them all the way through. But they should have. And maybe I'll go back and look, and if they're not, I'll just redo those lists and include it, because there are not many more iconic soundtracks than The Graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's 10, and that's why it didn't show up on the list. But
you ever done a coming of age list? No.
I feel like coming of age stuff. I know that coming of age movies was a category in my top 10 A24 movies of all time, which is why I was so quick on the draw with, what they do well is coming of age movies. But no, I haven't done coming of age movies as an entire list. Are there 10 different types?
Yeah, probably. I mean, yeah.
If there are 5 different types, maybe I can do 2 of each. Or maybe that'll just be a top 3.
Because you could make the argument that like Grumpy Old Men is a coming of age movie,
No, that would be the way to do it, right? Is coming of age and doing it by main character's age.
Yeah.
Because like, does Home Alone count as a coming of age movie a little bit?
Yeah. Make that argument.
Maybe.
Is Dr. Strangelove a coming of age movie?
I mean, 2001 probably is.
I mean, for a part of it, yeah.
For humanity in general.
It comes of multiple ages in that.
And Star Children. No, this would be a good one. This would win the college age category.
I guess it would. Probably more.
We'd have to probably spend 2 picks on like 14-year-old coming of age movies,
and
Stand By Me and stuff like that.
I'm gonna. I mean, when it comes to high school, let's be real here, and totally off topic, but there's only really one important high school coming of age movie, and that is Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Sure.
It's the only one that does both the comedy and the drama like really, really well.
Shall we torf?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's torf.
All right, turf number 1. William Goldman, the legendary screenwriter behind All the President's Men, The Princess Bride, and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, reportedly wrote the first draft of the script, though his version was ultimately set aside. Elements of his sharp dialogue and character dynamics are said to have influenced later iterations.
I'm going to say false.
I don't remember hearing William Goldman attached to this.
Yeah, I'm going to say false. Also.
It is false.
Ooh.
Hey. That was a nerve-wracking couple of seconds.
So he was asked to write the script, but he declined because he did not get the book. He didn't get it.
I did read one review that was talking about the book as being kind of I don't really care about this book. Like, it wasn't a terribly popular book, or it wasn't well received, or I did read that. So that part is interesting.
All right, second turf. In the famous promotional still for The Graduate, Dustin Hoffman is seen in the background, framed by Mrs. Robinson's leg. However, the leg in the photo didn't belong to Anne Bancroft. It was actually that of a younger stand-in model.
That is true.
True.
Sure, you're super confident about that. I'm gonna go with true.
It is true.
Ooh, got it.
Just in the poster or in the actual shot from the movie?
Just in the poster. So, fun fact, her name is Linda Gray, and years later, she played Mrs. Robinson in the stage play production.
Oh, wow. Full circle.
Full circle. Way to go, Linda.
And if you ever watched the show Dallas, she played the role of Sue Ellen.
I know of Dallas.
My mom would know who that is. My mom was.
I will take your word for that.
All right, next dwarf. Catherine Rose wore clothing borrowed from director Mike Nichols' daughter for the campus scene in The Graduate. Nichols felt that his daughter's style perfectly embodied the character of Elaine.
Oh, so Catherine Ross borrowed clothes from, or the wardrobe department or somebody, I guess, borrowed clothes from Mike Nichols' daughter?
Yeah.
I'm gonna go true.
On true on that. Yeah, it sounds biased.
I'm going to say false.
Okay.
I'm going to say false because they were inspired by Mike Nichols' daughter, but they didn't actually take her clothes.
Ooh.
Ooh. So it is false.
Dang.
Wait, I already forgot which one I said.
You were right. Yeah, you were right.
Was I right? Okay.
Yeah.
So,
I'm thinking in circles around this one and I lost my place.
So Catherine actually wore her own clothes, and it was for the same reason. The director felt that her clothes kind of fit the character already. She just wore what she wore to set.
That's a good day's work.
All right, last one. A stripper was used as a body double for Anne Bancroft during the nude scene in The Graduate.
Huh. Like the inserts and stuff?
Yeah, the
Maybe?
inserts.
Yeah, just. I'm gonna say false.
False. Yeah, I feel like she was pot committed. I think she really wanted this role, and I can't imagine that would be a.
I'm going to go true just to be different.
Yeah.
So it is true.
Oh, wow.
It is true.
Yeah.
I think the Hays Code being so close in the rearview mirror, I think there was probably still some hesitance.
Got it.
So she actually did agree at the beginning, but then when it came time to shoot the scene, she changed her mind. So they actually had to send someone out to Sunset Strip to find a stripper, and then
Man. I was just imagining the PA that got that job. Like, hey, go get a stripper. Here's some cash. Go get a stripper real quick.
But
Oh,
even funnier is that the first stripper refused to remove her pasties, so they had to go find a second one.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
That's like the equivalent of doing the sending the PA out and they got your coffee wrong kind of thing, or it's like, all right, well.
And then Mike Nichols is like, what do you mean you didn't make sure she'd take her pasties off? What a day on set that was.
Yeah.
At least
I want to talk to that person who was. I want to talk to the PA whose job it was to do this and have an interview series with them because that sounds fascinating.
Yeah. That is turf.
Thank you, Tayo.
Thank you for the torf, Tayo. It does. Now that we're talking about that PA, it does transition really well into who's your MVP for this movie. Is it the PA that went and got the stripper?
It's Anne Bancroft, man. I think she is just a commanding force in this entire movie, and she's wonderful. I think she's so fun to watch on screen, and she's such a good villain.
Is she a villain? I guess she's a villain. Yeah,
I mean,
she's a villain.
She
I don't know that the movie has a villain.
Well, I think. I mean, she did seduce a 20-year-old like that. I don't know. There's some very unfair power dynamics at play where I was like,
listen,
you do kind of suck, man.
There's not many of the people on screen are,
but a sympathetic villain.
Honestly, it's really just Elaine, and I got to give it to Mike Nichols though.
You gonna give it to Mike Nichols?
I got to give it to Mike Nichols. I know we talk about this all the time about the director kind of being the default guy, but I think this is one where it really, really earns it. Like, he was the guy that was pushing everybody, to be super creative about how they portrayed this, like assembling people like a novelist and a sketch comedian to adapt a novel that nobody liked in the first place. And, giving Dustin Hoffman his first big break, and Robert Surtees being savvy enough to get a crusty old veteran of a DP to pull off everything that he wanted to do. Like I think it's Mike Nichols. I mean, everybody, and because Dustin Hoffman's performance is just as good and just as important as Bancroft.
Sure,
100%. That's one of those. It's one of these where I think everybody was doing their job so well that you kind of have to give it to the director.
Yeah, I'm not gonna disagree there.
Oh, great.
But I'm still gonna go. I'm gonna still go with Anne Bancroft though.
All right. Now, having said that, which version of Nick Cage would you like to put in this movie, Cal?
Oh, I mean,
90s Nick Cage.
I don't.
He would absolutely be the hotel clerk for me.
I don't think. Oh yeah. I don't think he could do a Benjamin Braddock. Like even like Valley Girl is probably the most like 1-to-1 of like Nicolas Cage kind of doing a role similar to this, and doesn't work.
See, for me, whenever we play this game, I always like it when he's a cameo. You know, I want to with respect to the actors. Well, what makes sense to throw him in?
Make him the doctor.
There you go. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
At the zoo?
Dr. Zoo, yeah.
The boyfriend.
Yeah.
Dr. Zoo?
Yeah.
I mean, I think a present-day Nick Cage would make a really interesting Mr. Robinson.
Yeah.
That would at least add a weirdly scarier dynamic for Benjamin, because it's like that's your secret crazy man's wife.
Oh yeah, that's fair.
He'd be the type of dad to pull out the gun and set it on the table when Ben comes.
You guys ever have?
Do you guys have a talk and then the gun comes out on the table?
You guys ever have like one of those friends like whose dad made sure to like make sure that like I had a couple of friends whose dads, right, when the daughter went on a date, made sure like the dad would go out of the way to make sure that the boyfriend was aware there were guns in the house. in various.
I have one of those in my life. Yeah.
There's always one.
It's Texas, Clint. I just based on what happened at high water. Yeah, sorry. Based on
let me revise. There's always at least one.
Based on how many armed bank customers there are.
So I actually do have it on my list, and it is number 23 for me.
Well, there you go. That's high.
Yeah,
top quarter.
Yeah. I really like this movie, and maybe it's because it hit me at a very precise moment in my life of just, discovering like, man, I really love movies, and just, also being of a similar age as Ben when I watched the movie. It was like, man, this movie rocks, and maybe that's persisted with me.
I thought I loved movies, but I love movies.
It's like where I wanted to at least get on a podcast at least once a week and talk about it with a bunch of dudes, at least something like that,
At least one.
I have this movie one higher than another Murray Abraham movie named Jaws, and I have this at 30.
That's pretty high.
Bertie Hamilton. I don't think Yeah. What's up? 30. Oh, great. Yeah, 30.
Murray Hamilton representing high on my list.
I didn't have it on my list. This is one of those movies that, like, when you sit down and make one of these lists, like, I didn't go back and revisit every movie that I've ever seen, and it had been long enough since I'd seen this that it just wasn't in my brain when I made my list. But watching it now, it's probably ought to be in there. So,
and honestly, it's one of those things where every time I watch it, I'm like, maybe I should have put this higher on my list.
Higher than 23.
Yeah. Higher than 23 is high, bro.
Yeah, no.
That's pretty high, man. I'm also told neither Dan nor Alex had it on their list.
Typical Dan doesn't have it.
Okay, so do you guys have an envelope there? Because we're at a 30 and a 23 and a bunch of didn't have it.
Yep. We do have the
With
envelope.
This new algorithm, man, I don't know. Is that good enough for top half?
Should I open it?
Probably.
A 30 and a 23 and then 4 no-shows?
4 no-shows? Yeah, it's got to be in the...
I'm opening...
I think it's going to be higher than that. I'm going to go with the 60s.
60s.
I'll go 67 just because that was the year it was made.
Hell yeah.
And the moment of truth. It is 53. That's pretty good.
Good.
Right.
All right.
Very good.
Okay. So a 23 and a 30 and nothing else gets you 53.
Just making sure there's nothing else in
learning this new algorithm. Right. No, I don't think we have to worry about the dynamic. It is a family movie, but it's not part of a franchise, so we don't have to argue about which one we're keeping. And
I was just worried.
not 100s.
Yeah.
You don't get the option to do anything. There's no drama here at the end of this episode. We did it.
Lovely.
We're just sitting
Good
on,
work.
we're just sitting on a bus smiling, you know.
And now the
Way to sit on a bus and smile and nod until 35 seconds worth of credits roll. That's the other thing about movies from the 60s is the credits at the end were always very short.
Because they're mostly in the beginning.
You're looking at it. Yeah, you're looking at the runtime of a movie, and the thing's going to go all the way to the end. But that will do it for us this week as we sit here and slowly stop grinning at the end of this episode. But thank you for watching Graduate. Super glad to watch it from start to finish again for the first time in a long time. Very glad I did that. And thank you, Cal and Nick, for having it so high on your list.
You're welcome.
Yeah, anytime, dude.
Whenever you need a good movie, you could just come
anytime.
check out my list, and you could find 100 of them.
Yeah, okay. Take it easy. Take it easy, Robin Hood. Also, thanks to Alfa Romeo enthusiast producer Tayo Oyekan, technical producers and pool scuba divers Marhyan, Franzen, and Amir Rakib, our production manager who's currently on stage at the Whiskey A Go-Go, Tanner Smith, and a guy that I'd like to hear the sound of silence from a little more often, Dan continues to at all. But come back next week and we'll see what sort of family time the algorithm has in store for us. I can tell you right now, I honestly don't get it, but we'll be watching Blade Runner, the famous family film Blade Runner, the original Ridley Scott version. So I guess it's the algorithm is trying to make us choose between that one and 2049, which we already know is on the list. Which frankly is why Dan still doesn't get thanked for the show because it's just mean spirited.
What cut? Just to be clear, what cut of Blade Runner should we
Which
be
one are we gonna
watching?
watch?
Yeah.
I tell you what, there's enough of them. Let's all three of us watch a different cut.
Okay.
I called not theatrical.
Yeah,
I
second.
called not it on the theatrical.
I called director's cut.
I'll
There you
take
go.
vinyl.
That's shit. Did I just get stuck with the end? I don't know. We'll work on it later. But until then, until we're watching 3 different versions of Blade Runner next week, stay safe, be good, and maybe just take it easy this summer.